Hey, I'm Jay Royster, and today we are at Camp North End, one of the largest infill adaptive reuse projects in America, right outside of Uptown Charlotte. We're meeting with Tommy Mann, Director of Development with ATCO Properties, and he's going to tell us all about it. So let's go check it out.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go! Tommy, thank you for having us here at Camp North End, a large adaptive reuse office and retail project.
Jay, thanks for coming by.
So before we get into talking about this adaptive reuse deal, tell us a little bit about yourself, Tommy, and your background in commercial real estate.
Well, I'm a native Charlottean, born and raised here. I spent about 10 years in the real estate world up in the DC area, working for a number of developers on mixed-use projects, retail, multifamily, condo, office, hotel, and finally made my way back home to Charlotte. I hooked up with ATCO and came back home to run this 76-acre adaptive reuse project, Camp North End.
So tell us a little bit about, now that we have your background, Camp North End has a very interesting history, former governmental uses, military uses, automotive uses, distribution. Tell us a little bit about the background, the unique background of Camp North End.
Yeah, there's incredible history here. The site started as a Ford Motor Company manufacturing plant. Ford was manufacturing Model Ts and Model A vehicles here in the 1920s and early 30s. And when Ford shut down the plant during the Great Depression, the site sat vacant for a few years until the Army bought the entire 76 acres when the U.S. entered World War II and established a quartermaster depot here, sending supplies to basic training camps all around the Southeast. And in the early part of the war, the Army built everything on site, 1 million square feet on top of the existing Ford improvements. And the Army was here into the Cold War. This site eventually became the Charlotte Army Missile Plant, or camp, which is a nod to our name. The Army was manufacturing Hercules missiles, Nike missiles, vehicles called Gamma Goats, which predated the Humvee. Those were actually manufactured in this building that we're sitting in today.
Wow, unbelievable history. So today at Camp North End, you have 1.3 million square feet of existing warehouse, 76 acres, entitlements for up to 3 million square feet of future development. It's one of the largest adaptive reuse projects in the United States. How do you keep from getting overwhelmed on such a project that's gonna go through several economic cycles? It's gonna take many years to complete. How do you attack this on a day-to-day basis?
We put a plan together, and it's a phase at a time, it's a building at a time. Yes, we have a master plan for the entire redevelopment. We have a master plan for just the initial adaptive reuse phases of the development. We have a master plan for the future ground-up phases that'll mostly surround the edges of the property. And we're renovating about a building a year, putting new creative office and retail and food and beverage and entertainment spaces into service, and alongside them creating some really great outdoor public active spaces. But it's really just having a plan and executing on it.
Yeah, like when you go to bed at night, are you ever overwhelmed? You do a 25, even a 50,000 square foot office, or you're probably not doing retail deals of that size, but if you do an office deal of that size for most groups, that'd be an anchor tenant. I mean, that's a project in itself, whereas for you, that's a small piece to your overall puzzle. Does that ever wear on you because it's such a large project?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Those tenants, even a 30,000 square foot tenant, is just a slice of one of our buildings. But, we've got different buildings in different phases of the development cycle. And so yes, it's a lot of balls in the air, it's a lot to juggle, it's a lot to keep track of. We've got buildings that are under construction, we've got buildings that are in lease up, we have buildings that are open and occupied. We have a dozen food and beverage tenants at Camp North End today, open and occupied. We've got really great office space, large and small, filled with tenants, but we have more coming. And so we've got buildings that are in the pre-development stages where, we're working with architects on design, or even backing up earlier than that, just working through kind of concepts and playing with the master plan plan, because the thing about the master plan is it's a living, breathing document. None of it's set in stone, and we're constantly tweaking things.
Right, absolutely. So you've got some projects that are being delivered, you've got others that are under construction, you've got others that are in design, and then you have others that are still in the conceptual phase. So at all times, you're constantly juggling different iterations of the project.
Exactly.
So one of the really interesting things to me that I've noticed being out in the community, I've never heard one negative thing about Camp North End. It's been nothing but positive. Y'all have clearly had phenomenal community buy-in, and I know that's not by chance or by luck. I know you've been very strategic in engaging both the North End community as well as the Charlotte community as a whole, and it seems like you've really been embraced. What's been your approach to community buy-in?
We're very proud of the relationship we have with our neighbors. We don't take it for granted. We know that they've put a lot of trust in us to improve their neighborhood. One of the things that we're really proud of is the fact that we've unlocked really the sort of hole in the middle of 8 really vibrant neighborhoods that surround Camp North End, that for generations were sort of closed off from one another because of this site surrounded by razor wire fences and lack of connectivity between Graham and Statesville. But over the last few years, we've taken down fences, we've created new connections through the site, and we've delivered some really great indoor and outdoor spaces that we've made available to our neighbors. In fact, the North End Community Coalition, which is the civic organization that oversees the 8 neighborhoods around us, use Camp North End as their home for meetings and picnics and barbecues and festivals and things like that. And we're proud that they've chosen to embrace Camp North End and use it in that way. We've built this really vibrant community of artists and businesses and makers, for-profits, nonprofits, retailers, people who are at the top of their game in the culinary arts, in the visual arts, and that group of diverse tenants and talent and family members is what creates a culture here that is much richer than if we were in an office park with just business people, or if we were in a shopping center with just retail tenants.
Yeah, I think the culture that you all have tried to create and the culture that's here is really an amenity in itself. And the community buy-in from an inclusionary standpoint, a diversity standpoint is very, very impressive. So speaking about some of those tenants, Lee and Louise, talking about chefs, I'm ashamed to say I have not been there. I've tried to go, but I've heard nothing but amazing things. I'm sure you can talk about Lee and Louise a little bit, but you've also landed free range. So you have local businesses here. At the same time, you've got Ally Bank. I've heard Centene is coming here. So talk a little bit about how you target both retail businesses that are local as well as larger office corporate tenants.
Yeah, so you mentioned Lee and Louise, and Chef Greg Collier and Sabrina Collier have had one heck of a year. They were just named to Esquire magazine's list of the best new restaurants in the entire country.
Wow.
And they were number 2 on that list.
Wow, that's
the
impressive.
only restaurant in North Carolina to make that list, and that was just a couple of weeks ago. So
I really got to go now.
you do, and we need to fix that, and you need to make a reservation, and we need to get you over there.
Okay.
It's incredible. The menu that Greg has put together is unlike anything that you'll find anywhere in Charlotte, and really pays homage and respect to his roots, and it's just incredible food. Free Range is a great example of tenants who have a focus on building community, both through how they operate as a business and also through the product they sell. I mean, I don't think there's a beer at Free Range that has fewer than 92 or 94% local ingredients in the beer. And Free Range is a great way to try some of the food at Lee and Louise, because there is a pass-through window and you can order some of Lee and Louise's best bar snacks when you're in Free Range drinking a beer. So there's a little tip for you.
The collaboration of that is that's really cool.
And that collaboration, we see it across the entire property. Tenants want to be here because of the opportunities that we give them to collaborate with one another and to learn from one another. And it all goes back to the fact that, we're not leasing space to one kind of tenant. We're leasing space to a whole collection of different types of businesses, different types of organizations that will help to elevate each other and help one another to execute at the very tops of their games. So from a retail leasing standpoint, we're targeting local, one-off, unique, new-to-market concepts. It's a lot of mom-and-pop tenants. We are always looking for the best of whatever category we're leasing space to. When it comes to office leasing, what we found is office tenants self-select into this kind of product. Either you want to be in a bank building uptown, or you want to be in a space like we're sitting in today. We know that the most progressive, innovative companies recognize the fact that their physical space, their office space, is the most tangible reflection of their brand that their employees will ever touch on a day-to-day basis. And those companies are attracted to places like Camp North End. Ally Bank's a great example. Ally Bank's Innovation Lab is at Camp North End. So while they just moved into a great new tower uptown, their group, TM Studio, that focuses on ideation and innovation of new banking products, they kind of want to be disconnected from the rest of the company so that they can be in an environment where they can just be creative. And so being here at Camp North End allows them to sort of just get out of the typical day-to-day bubble, and so they can be in a more creative environment.
So Tommy, on a project of this scale, of this size, what are some of the biggest challenges or preconceptions that you have to overcome?
I think one of the biggest challenges on an adaptive reuse project is just the nature of adaptive reuse. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to these great old buildings that, sometimes, we don't discover until we're in the middle of construction. And so it's often the case that adaptively reusing a building can be just as expensive or sometimes more expensive than new ground up construction. But it's the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do for this site. It's what got us excited about this site in the first place. And it's what creates amazing office spaces like the one that we're sitting in. So we're willing to take that, little bit of incremental risk for a better product at the end of the day.
Well, Tommy, thank you for having us today. I can say with certainty, as interesting and unique as the last 80 to 100 years have been at Camp North End, it's more exciting what you all and your team are doing moving forward here. And I know that both the North End community as well as the Charlotte larger community will embrace it, and we're lucky to have it. What do you think about grabbing a beer from Free Range?
I think that sounds great.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Thanks for watching, and if you're interested in keeping up with the commercial real estate development scene in Charlotte, make sure to like and subscribe.